Welcome to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based podcast that spotlights Black women that replace silence with storytelling around pregnancy and infant loss and infertility. Black women experience miscarriage and stillbirth 4 to 5 times more likely than white women in the United States, according to the CDC and NIH. Whether you've experienced a miscarriage, infant loss, or stillbirth, are trying to conceive, or have an infertility diagnosis, you will learn about resources and strategies to heal, gain clarity, peace, and hope, and find an empowering path forward after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. Freeman, and you'll hear me interview other sisters in loss from around the world who have healed from such a painful and traumatic experience by sharing their testimonies and stories to inspire and help others turn their pain into their purpose. Storytelling is powerful. Storytelling is activism. Storytelling is healing. Now let's get started. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So excited to have you. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. So I am Mashai Small, better known as a soul coach. I am a life coach. I am a doula, new to the field of abolition work. And yeah, a podcaster, a mother, a wife, a creator, embracer. I feel like I don't know. I have a lot of different titles that I can put behind my name or, well, in front of my name, after my name, adjectives to describe me. But I'm really one of those people. I can say I've like been a nomad in the world with going through the journey of life and experiencing things. Not for really the face value, but just the experience in general. Before becoming a podcaster, life coach, like back in 2015, 2016, like it was placed on my heart that I'm really on the road to contentment. Like that's my ultimate goal. I just want to be content. Want to I don't care about like the physical material things or anything. I just really want to live this life to reach contentment. A mother of 2 beautiful babies, and currently baking another one. So they keep me on my toes. I really feel like this point in my life, the biggest title is being a mother and just experiencing that journey and not really allowing the boundaries of whether it's the societal norms to stand in front of me. Yeah, I'm really embracing it.
Absolutely. Well, you have a story to share with us, and I would love for you to talk about your journey to motherhood, share with us your lost story, and really what it was like as you navigated through life's challenges.
Okay. So I want to say back in 2016, um, really started on like my journey of being a life coach and doing the inner work and development of myself, healing through trauma, wanting to hear other people's stories. Um, Ended up being single for about 2 years, got into a relationship, um, which ended up being a long distance relationship after finding out I was pregnant, because I was in the military at the time. And so um, basically, when I found out I was pregnant, I was really excited. It wasn't one of those things where family was really on board with it, but I know I wanted to experience every little thing, whether it was a birth announcement, putting those things out, finding mommy groups and stuff. Um, and that was around May of 2018 when I found out I was pregnant. So went through the summer, had to go to a high risk doctor because of at the beginning of my pregnancy, I started to have a shortened cervix. So they were like, oh, well, we want to give you the suppositories that are going to boost your progesterone levels and to keep the pregnancy viable. And I said, okay. So I was going there. Then they were like, oh, gotta go see another high risk doctor. So went to that high risk doctor, along with switching over to getting primarily care at a military hospital. And basically I was feeling fine. I had a little spotting, but it wasn't something that I was like really um like worried about because that was at the beginning of my pregnancy. And since I started the suppositories, I hadn't had any spotting or anything. So I just stayed humble, stayed faithful, and prayed, and thought that with everything that I was doing and not trying to stress, it was gonna like keep the pregnancy um viable. And I was gonna make it further and further along. So I want to say it was about August did my like gender reveal pictures, did like a little Netflix theme. It was so cute. And right after that, I want to say when it hit like fall, August or whatever, while being in the military, um it wasn't one of those things that it was really accommodating, at least with my leadership. I was told to still go to land navigation and put on gear and walk around and basically do this even though I'm pregnant and I'm closer to my second trimester. So I was a little upset about that. I got bit by ticks and basically exposed myself to almost getting Lyme disease. And at that point, I was just like, okay, I really feel like I don't have anybody in my corner with this pregnancy to advocate for me. So in the position, I'm like, okay, coming closer with family. We were moving into a bigger place, and basically, the one day I wasn't moving anything. I'm like, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom. Telling my sisters, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I'm just thinking I need to poop because I'm little regular during my pregnancy. And I'm like, okay. So I go in the bathroom thinking I need to poop. And I feel pressure come out of my vagina. And I I was in the dark bathroom because there was natural sunlight coming in the apartment. And I took a mirror and I look down and I see a balloon like coming out, something balloon like coming out of my cervix. Um, no fluids or anything. And it was so small, it was probably like the size of a nickel. And I didn't want to freak out, but I didn't want to not call 911. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the phone with my aunt. I'm like, I need to call you back. I need to call 911. So I called 911, called the ambulance and everything. I'm hysterical at this point because I was 17 weeks and 5 days. And 17 weeks and 4 days. And the EMTs got there. They took me in the ambulance, and with that experience I'm like, okay, they're gonna make sure I'm okay. I'm like really nervous. I had nobody with me in the ambulance. My mom was gonna meet me there, but she was at work, so she had to get off of work, like find coverage for work. She worked all the way in DC, and that was gonna be some time. So I'm just like praying to God. I'm like, I'm telling this woman, I don't know if I have to pee or if it's my water about to break. So she's like, well, if it's pee, you need to hold it. And I'm like, wow, like I never knew pregnancy could be like this, like where you think that the people who are going to help you, they're actually like really rude. And I don't know if it's because I'm a black woman or if she just treats everybody like this, but I ended up peeing. It was pee. My water still hadn't broke or anything. And she's like, you have stuff all over the back of my ambulance and blah, blah, blah. By the time we made it to the hospital, I'm like, thank you, God, I made it here. And I didn't pass out because I was just so overwhelmed at that point, just making sure that baby was fine. Get into a room and I'm just waiting. And I had some doctors come in and they were like, okay, well, since you're not as far along in your pregnancy, we want to give you your options. Either you can stay here tonight. I mean, there's going to be a really bad hurricane. I don't think you can go to any abortion clinic or anything right now, but you can either stay here, see how the pregnancy goes, um, do a cerclage, but we don't know unless the sac goes back in your uterus based off of different things that we're going to try, interventions, then I don't know if you'll be able to keep the baby. So are you willing to do the labor and delivery portion as far as having the baby, see if it comes out alive, or if you want to take that route with getting the baby cremated and preparing for those type of things. So I'm like, this is a lot. I don't have anybody there to support. My child's father is all the way in Korea, and I'm trying to tell him he's in a state of shock and it's really not something. I'm like, basically, I have to make this decision on my own. So I'm like, okay, give me some time, wait until my mom gets here. Let's try to figure this out. So they're like, yeah, we can put you in this position where your head is tilted down and your feet are up, but you may feel a little woozy or anything because of the blood flow. But we're only going to try this until tomorrow and we're going to go from there. So I'm like, I gotta think of this in a split second. I'm like, okay, let me call the chaplain because I need somebody to come pray with me. Um, call the chaplain. Still trying to play these things out of my head. I'm like, okay, well, why wasn't the NICU an option if the baby comes out and the baby is healthy? And like, I know a lot of people who've had babies very, very small, and I haven't heard the NICU come up as an option. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just make a decision. I've grown attached to my baby. I've given him a name. His name was Mason. I've really like prepared for motherhood with it being an unexpected pregnancy, and I want to be able to honor my baby. So I was like, okay, if things don't change, then I will go ahead and have them, and then we can figure out the options after that. So it was the next day and well, going into the next day, and they're like, we think we're gonna go ahead and like prepare you for labor and delivery right now, so let's get started. I had an ultrasound. Baby was still doing good, blood pressure good, moving around, blowing bubbles, and I'm just like how can this be? Like, if I go into this room and this baby doesn't come out alive, like, how is this going to be very, like, how, like, I'm going to have to change my whole mind about being a mother. So they prepare me for the labor and delivery. Um, and at this point, I'm just like, I have to do what I have to do. I really didn't want the epidural, but because I was in so much pain and not being able to focus, never knew like the side effects of what the epidural can do to you. I just know once they gave me that pain medicine, I was in and out of consciousness. I really felt so loopy. Even with them administering the epidural, they were like, yeah, you have to sign right here. I'm like in and out of consciousness, and I'm like trying to get my mom's attention. She was on her phone, and I'm just like, I really like, I just felt like I'm at that point just vulnerable because am being able to speak up for myself, but I feel like I don't have all of the knowledge to speak up for myself in a point where I'm able to say, hey, let's wait a few days. Let's do this. Let's do that. Everything was thrown on me at a split decision. So basically got the epidural. They gave me Pitocin. They're like, hey, this gonna help with your labor. They put it inside of my vagina, and the doctor and the nurses were like, yeah, we're gonna be here with you and everything. Um, they were pretty courteous, like, turned down the lights, had, like, some little, like, soothing music, but because I was so out of it and I did not know what was going on, I couldn't really experience the moment and know all of the different things. All I know is I was just like, "I have to push," and they're like, "Oh, no, no, don't strain, don't do this," and I don't like, at that moment, I stopped feeling the baby move, and by the time I woke up, the baby was there, and they were like, "Oh, your placenta has to come out." Placenta came out, and I was in and out of consciousness again. And it was just like when you see on movies, like when it switches from a part to another part, and it's like you don't know how you got there, that's how I felt. And all I know is I asked the nurse, like, hey, where's my baby? She's like, oh, he's right here. I was like, what time was he born? Like, what is he like? She brought him over in this little crocheted blanket that someone makes for the hospital for those families who experience loss. And I didn't know what to do. He was fairly like small, but at the same time, like, I knew that was him. I knew that was my baby. I didn't have to question it. And I just used that moment to take pictures with him. And it was pretty awkward because it was just like, I didn't plan this. Like, I didn't plan for my birth to go like this. I didn't plan for like me to not have the support, not have the advocacy throughout this pregnancy. And at that time, I didn't have a doula. I didn't know what a doula was. Um, this just wasn't common. And I was like one of the first people in my family to have a miscarriage and be like open about it. Um, so everything was new to me. Um, by the next, like, going into the next morning, I was able to still spend time with him. They kept him under the little incubator light and everything to preserve him. And I literally just sat there not knowing, like, I'm like, this doesn't come with instructions. Like, when having someone go through a loss and then like having to shift your mind, that is like going from pregnancy to loss is the biggest shift. And it's like you're playing like I feel like I was playing tricks on my mind with trying to act like normalize it and then not like be okay at the same time. And so I'm like, okay. They're like, so what do you want to do with the baby now that you're about to get discharged? I'm like, um, can you just hold off? Like, can I get a minute, like, to think? We said, okay, well, we can have someone come pick them up from the state anatomy board since you don't have a particular like crematorium you want him to go to or a funeral home. So until you make those decisions, we can give you the paperwork, who to call, and go from there. But take your time. They can hold the baby like as long as you need to. And I'm like, well, if I have to leave him there, then I won't know. So I'm like, I'm gonna get discharged. I'm gonna try to figure out all of the things and kind of go from there. And it was hard because nobody was forcing me to make the decisions on what to do for my baby, but at the same time, nobody else knew what to do. So I'm just like, okay. So I go home and I'm like, I was just getting ready to plan my baby shower. Everybody's messaging me on Facebook, Instagram, like, oh, when is the baby shower? Can we plan it? Do this and do that. I'm like, I gotta tell these people, like, I'm one of those people, I don't like being faced with this type of news and then having so many people to be able to like come ask me these questions and like having to keep reliving it. So I said, I'm just gonna make a video. I'm gonna post it on Facebook or YouTube and just send everybody the link. Like I know it's pretty like it seems irrational, but I don't want this to keep coming up. So made a 4-part video, posted the same night, told everybody what was going on. I had an outpour from family, friends. I experienced a miscarriage. I'm so happy that you spoke up about it. Like, you're really brave and I can imagine what you're going through, but I can't imagine what you're going through. Like, how can you speak about this right now and like still be able to want to move forward in your healing journey? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just doing what feels right, even though it feels uncomfortable. So after going through that, like that moment, posting the video, of course I cried like throughout the night. I wondered, and then with the feeling of like, oh, I have breast milk. I have to figure out what to do with that. Had to find out, oh, get some cabbage leaves and like dry up my milk, like going through those little things and not knowing how I can help someone else, whether it's with pumping or anything like that. Like I didn't even have that type of plan at all. And I was just like, I gotta like friends don't know what to do or how to explain things. So I get on Instagram and I'm just like scrolling and I'm like miscarriage groups, and somewhere in the hashtags, I end up coming across sisters-in-laws. And so I'm like, okay, like she looks like me. There's women who are telling their stories. So I started listening to the podcast and then I heard you mention fertility for color girls. So I literally stayed up all night crying, looking through things, and I noticed that they had a chapter in the DMV area and they hosted meetings. So I'm like, okay, I must like plan to go to one of their meetings, the next up and coming meeting. But I was like literally binge listening to your podcast, scrolling your page and going through all the different things. And I'm just like, I felt like it was like an underground community of women going through loss and just like it felt like an epidemic once like, how many episodes does she have? Like, how many people are going through this? So I'm going through and I'm just like, wow. Like at that point, when I went to your page, I felt like I was the youngest person who had went through that at that moment because I saw women who were late 20s, early 30s, some even older who have experienced it, went through the different um methods of either IVF or surrogacy. And I'm like, wow, like people are really trying to have babies and why is it like so hard for us to either have the babies or keep the babies during the pregnancy? And so I just started researching so many different things and like it was in a sense it was a way for me to heal because I didn't feel alone. And I really didn't tell anybody that I was like starting to look for these communities or groups, but I had already been in therapy during the pregnancy, so I was able to continue on with my therapist and not have to say, "Oh, I got to go look for another therapist," and all of these things. So that's one thing I can say. I always keep up with my mental health, and I feel like because I built up that routine, it's been a major foundation in my mental health and being able to speak about the things that are really, really hard. Because the things that I have been through that are really hard, I'm still like, it affects me, but it doesn't affect me because of the different things I put in place like therapy or just trying to keep a self-care routine and knowing myself and not putting myself in a position where I'm around those who are going to trigger me to a point where I don't feel like you're helping my healing journey. So, yeah, I think it was probably about 3 weeks or so. I allowed the baby to stay in at the state anatomy board. I found a crematorium that was here in the Glen Burnie area. Um, Simply Cremation, I believe. They were really, really nice. They assisted me with like finding a urn, telling me like the process of if I wanted to have a memorial service and everything. Um, and just being really nice about things, like going about how to apply for a death certificate and just showing me different resources outside of the hospital. The hospital, they gave me there's a support group. I really didn't feel comfortable or called to really participate in that group. Not sure why. But there was a woman who was over the group who came to the room and she told me like, "Hey, the hospital does have this program and we do different things throughout the year to memorialize your baby. We celebrate the baby's lives during October for Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month." So on that side, I was given the information. I was given emails and people to contact. But I was really focused on your podcast and learning about women who look like me. Because that woman didn't look like me, I feel like it's probably why I didn't connect with her as much. Um, because I feel like a lot of in my particular feeling, I feel like a lot of white women, they have the support that they need from their community and black women don't. And it's like when we go through this and it changes our mental health, that's something like we get labeled the angry black woman or you need to stop having babies. You shouldn't, all of those stereotypes and projections that they want to put on us. So I really wanted to focus on building that community of people who look like me. Um, and I ended up like getting this huge picture of my son blown up on a canvas and creating like my own little corner for him. I would pray to him. I got one like his little foot. They molded it in clay and did his hand and everything. So I started to memorialize him, and I feel like that is what also helped me. And like as 1 month went by, 3 months, and just knowing those milestones and going to those support groups and just listening really assisted me with being able to have that healing journey that I wanted and needed and didn't really give up hope. Because there was at some point in time I did have a point in time where I'm like, why did this happen to me? Like, is my body broken? I'm young. I'm supposed to be able to have children. And of course you heard that from family members when I was getting the calls like, hey, you're supposed to be, I mean, you're young. You can have another baby. I'm like, but I love that baby. I wanted to be able to experience that baby. And it really took me back from those people who were saying that and the people who were encouraging me, like, yes, I know you love that baby, but you will be a mother again. Don't allow this to stop you from doing different healing, different things within your healing journey to get you to that point where you're going to be a mother. So, yeah, that's really really it. And um I can say that since the community within loss for men really wasn't there, and when I was experiencing this, I really wasn't able to one share that with my child's father. And with him being so young, he didn't know what to do or how to navigate loss like that, with this being his first child as well. So I can say that from his standpoint, it was probably pretty hard going through it.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful that you found the podcast, and it's the reason why I still do it, obviously, because I always feel like sometimes we suffer in silence, and at least being able to hear stories gives us some glimmer of hope about this sisterhood that we didn't want to be a part of. I would love for you to talk about just what those next few years look like for you, because obviously you got married, you had more kids, you fell into doula work. Like, what inspired you to want to become a birth and bereavement doula through Sisters in Loss, and how was that process for you?
So I really noticed, just from a standpoint of my, like, well, within the tail end of millennials, very close to Gen Z, like how this would affect our process of being able to reproduce and just that healing work. And after becoming a life coach in 2016, um, I really got back into the self-help and developmental journey within myself. So pouring into myself and traveling and just figuring out what I needed to pour into me. And once I came across, just networking, going to different events, I came across doula work, and, I think that was probably around the time where, I think that you either became a doula and then you created the birth and bereavement course. So because I didn't really see that many people in my generation, especially women, I saw a lot of lactation consultants, um, and that was really it. I didn't see any doulas being around my age, early 20s, mid 20s. So because of me experiencing that, I stated that, and I didn't have that support or even know about a doula. Um I just wanted to see, as a life coach, how can I be able to help families who are experiencing this during pregnancy, whether it's experiencing loss, because I would post content about my loss journey, and just seeing how I could really be assistance to my community. Because I am a Pisces, I'm very nurturing. I love helping people. Um, I always feel called to listen to, like, my soul. And if my soul says to help people, even in that, like, dark moment, I have to do it even if it feels uncomfortable. And I was like, okay, I've been seeing these different courses, and the fact that you covered birth and bereavement, I wanted to be able to speak to both of those. And that's when I ended up taking the course. Love the fact that you highlighted everything, with just going from having the support of being a birth supporter, and then if someone experiences losses, like the different types of doulas that you can also become with experiencing losses in different traditions and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna have that as something that I'm able to fall back on and have that knowledge to support people. Because in the hospital during that process, if I had a doula, then I could have probably saved my pregnancy. I could have probably just had more knowledge at that point in time, and it would have been something that would have empowered me. So, um, became a doula, and that was right after having my son, Colin. Um, During that pregnancy, I did have a doula. And I felt a little bit more empowered with having that support system, even though my care during my pregnancy with OBs and stuff hadn't changed. I feel like because I started to speak up for myself and say, hey, I have a doula, or hey, I have this support person that I'm going to, who's going to be able to point me in the right direction for certain things. It kind of pissed off some providers in a sense. And so I'm like, okay, had that pregnancy. Um, and then I ended up getting pregnant with my daughter. And I'm like, okay, I feel like the love and time that I poured into myself was starting to bloom within me being able to have children. Although I did start using products from Pink Stork prior to me being pregnant with my son, and that helped a lot. I changed up my diet. My diet wasn't like trash or anything, but I started being a little bit more intentional, taking supplements and being able to give myself time and just healing, yoni steaming and all of those different things. So when I had my daughter, I feel like I'm like, I know I've been taking all these supplements, but I don't know if it's just meant for me to have another baby or whatever the case might be. So got pregnant with her, and I noticed that I didn't like the care that I got with the OB. So I wanted to kind of navigate that birth on my own. Um, I didn't choose to go to see a OB. I confirmed the pregnancy and kind of just listened to my body throughout that whole pregnancy. Um, of course, I was like, oh, I want to know what the baby looks like, but I didn't want to risk exposing my baby to radiation or anything of that nature. Um, so throughout the whole pregnancy, listened to myself, didn't overextend myself. I ended up, I was in Georgia at that point in time. So there was a organization called Georgia Mama Cares, I believe. And I got a free doula through that program. And that doula, Brandy, she was really helpful with navigating things, especially me learning about the different laws or different things that I could be able to, programs I can apply for like getting assistance or being within community. In Georgia. And at that point in time, with my daughter's that pregnancy, I knew I had made it over the 34-week hump. And that's at that point in time, that was the most like vulnerable pregnancy because I did experience homelessness, and I was like trying to keep myself not being stressed, but also making sure I did what I need to do for my baby. And when I went to the hospital, I didn't receive the best care because the midwife, I'm telling her I'm in pain, and she still wanted to do a cervical check, and they had already seen the baby's head crowning. So she told me if I didn't allow her to do the cervical check, then she wasn't gonna allow me to go to labor and delivery. And she literally, yeah, shoved her hand in my vagina, and I'm like screaming, crying, and my husband wasn't in the hospital at that point in time because he had our baby, and the baby couldn't come. Our son, he was like a little over 1 years old. He couldn't come into the hospital, and we didn't have anybody to watch him at that moment. So he was forced to miss the birth, and I was being violated by this midwife, and literally they told me I couldn't like birth in the position that I wanted to position. And I'm like, hey, well, I can't lay on my back. They're like, you need to sit down. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go through this right now. I don't want to be one of those moms that I've heard about the story of having this really bad birth experience. So I ended up just I'm listening to my body over the doctors and nurses. I'm like on my knees, but still on the bed, and I'm like, I gotta poop and I gotta push this baby out. So she her head comes out, and then I'm like, I still feel like I have to poop. They're like, you're gonna get poop on the baby. I'm like, that doesn't matter. The baby is coming out. So I pushed again, and they were trying to control like me pushing, and I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I can't do this under pressure. Like, I'm gonna listen to me. I can't listen to you. She came out. They were like, oh, okay. Well, if your placenta doesn't come out in 5 minutes, then we're gonna make it come out. And I'm like, I know that my placenta is gonna come out within 5 minutes or less. So let's just leave it at that. I told them I didn't want any interventions with like the vitamin K shot or things of that nature, and they were really good about it. I had a birth plan, but at that time I didn't have the birth plan with me. And so because I didn't have like a OB that I went to for care, I didn't discuss it with anybody. I was just at that point, I was just winging everything. And I was just like, I'm gonna stand up for myself, even though I'm here. Didn't have anybody on the phone. I was just like, how many pounds does she weigh? What time was she born? Give her back to me. And that was really it. Like, even though I felt violated, I felt like the thing that I had experienced in the past with different care and going into knowing that I started that pregnancy out with wanting to be more confident and to assert myself to my providers, I feel like it paid off because I put the power back in me. And um yeah, I really felt like that birth empowered me a lot. And like now with this pregnancy, um surprise pregnancy, of course, especially with going through our CPS case last year, like having that whole family policing system like situation, it scares a lot of people from like not wanting to have any more children because they're thinking that this is something that's going to continue with every child that they have. And I feel like because I've built the community around those who have empowered me with the knowledge, whether it's been through birth work and going to different events like the Reproductive Justice Summit here in Baltimore, and yeah, I feel like because of the knowledge that I've had through the two pregnancies and networking, it has assisted me with being even more empowered this pregnancy. So as soon as I ended up getting pregnant, well, finding out I was pregnant, got confirmation, found an OB that I felt comfortable with, even though it was a little hesitant. I ended up getting sacred birth doulas rights over my birth rights package, and got it notarized, took it to the OB that I've been going to, and they looked at it like, what's this? I'm like, this is my birth plan. I want you to file it into my records. I want everybody to be abreast about it. And this is early in my second trimester. I'm like, so I don't want any ifs, ands, buts about it. And yeah, this is what I want. They were like, well, you don't really need this. We like the ones with pictures. I'm like, well, I need you to legally know how I feel. Pictures are gonna get a little misconstrued. I said I can do one with photos, but I need you to be able to read. I need everybody to be on board. And because I had this mindset and because I stuck to them wanting to abide by my birth plan and knowing that I'm not going to come in. I don't want to do all these invasive testing. I don't want you to be doing ultrasounds. I don't want you to be doing cervical checks. I don't want you to give me a glucose test because that's not something that I feel is necessary for me in this birth. I'm not going to be leaving pee samples every single time, or I probably am not going to be leaving them. So because I went through that early on in this pregnancy, they were like, wow. And because you're giving us this type of birth plan, I need you to meet with the medical director of the practice. So they're like, "Yeah, we need you to meet with her." So we schedule this meeting. I walk in. There's the medical director. There's someone from legal. There's a OB. And they're all like, I walk in, they're like, "Hi, so we're having this meeting because of your birth plan, and we want to go over it to let you know that we are not going to violate you. We have the utmost care when it comes to bedside manners and all of these things," and asking me why I had this detailed birth plan as far as things of this nature, and just yeah, they wanted to know what was going on with me, and I was just like, I've had trauma through my birth experiences, and I don't have time this pregnancy to waste on arguing. I care about myself, I care about my baby. My family, my friends who are close to me know what I want and what I need during this birth, and I'm not gonna allow anybody to change my mind. I said, I know that you can provide me with the information to actually um, make those decisions of yes, based off of the signs and symptoms. But I also want to take that into consideration and know what my values are. And so basically by the end of that meeting, they were just like, "Okay, well, I do want you to know that, like, we're not upset with you and everything." And of course, they had a black OBGYN in there and trying to get her to side with me, like, "Oh, you need this, you need ultrasounds, you need this, that, and that done during the pregnancy." And I'm like, "I hear you, but I also have a choice." I said, "You guys are a business." And I said, "Me giving you this birth plan is allowing you to be able to know how I feel. And if those things are not met, then I need you to be okay with the consequences that you have basically been met with because you're not abiding by my wants." I said, "Everything is done by consent. And if you don't have my consent, you can't do it. So I'm letting you know verbally and on paper that I don't want to do these things and I'm not going to be forced to do them." So, make a long story short, after that meeting, every single time I go to any prenatal appointment, I sign a refusal form and I get a copy of it. The doctor signs it. And yeah, they don't force me to do anything that I want to do. And this is the longest pregnancy I've had. I'll be 36 weeks tomorrow. And I feel like with me experiencing these um milestones within my birth, it shows that I've poured the power back into myself, and I would do it all over again and again and again and again. Like I really feel very empowered this pregnancy. Like I don't have any worries, and I'm really glad that I did it.
Wow. I am just gleaming of excitement over here. One thing that I thank you for sharing your journey up into this because um it's almost like every pregnancy and experience and trauma that you have, and a lot of women, it's not just you, but it almost takes to like the third and fourth pregnancy for us to get the experience we want, to feel empowered again, to feel like we're in our bodies fully, to know and stand our ground on every little thing. I think that obviously being a life coach, being a doula, but also being a mom and learning how to advocate for yourself is the whole part of this journey. And I love that you're doing that with this pregnancy and that you have the right support system around you to help lead you and guide you as you navigate through these last few weeks. And you birthed this baby in a different setting compared to um, your last experience. So, what are you looking forward to differently in this birth experience than the last one?
Um Actually having a doula present so I can go through all of the different comfort measures, kinda like getting pampered at that point because, like, I love seeing doulas on Instagram or just in general, like pouring into mothers and assisting them with those comfort measures. Because although you have family who can be there and a partner who can support you, it's nothing like another woman being able to say, hey, this and that, and just knowing those comfort measures and being able to create their own setting in my own home, instead of having to leave and the environment being off, being able to eat what I want to eat, being able to listen to music, being able to have my babies right there. Like that really broke my heart having my daughter and being told by the hospital, "Oh, you have to leave your son down with the security guard if your husband wants to come up." And I'm just like, how if I'm like if I drove because I was staying at my sister's house at that point in time to a hospital that I didn't even plan on giving birth to. I have no family around in this area, and you want me to leave my baby with a stranger at a hospital downstairs and he can just get brought up like I d yeah, just not having to go through any of that and just being able to recover how I want to recover and doing the home birth, like, is it's gonna be something that I probably once I record it, I'm probably gonna watch it over and over and over again because it's gonna be like, "Wow, I finally did it." And now that I'm almost full term, like, this has been the greatest experience with being able to pour into myself, especially with these last few weeks. I've been taking advantage of these prenatal massages. I do acupuncture. I go to the chiropractor. So having that being something that I have my as a foundation for care and not allowing my care just to be an OB and seeing a doula or midwife. Those are the things that I really love and I'm looking forward to, like, to continue to pour into myself before this pregnancy and during the home birth.
Yes, absolutely. So excited for you. So we already know what's on the horizon for you. Baby is on watch. She's on countdown. We've made it to this to full term essentially, and I am excited for you. So how has all of your pregnancies since your loss really been healing for you?
I would say it's been healing because certain parts well, during the pregnancy, I might have been well, I know for sure experiencing other trauma along with that. And I feel like it's kind of forced me into dealing with those things and handling that trauma and that baggage that I've had so that when the next pregnancy comes along, I don't have to deal with that. Whether it's just issues within myself or issues within um just different relationships that are around me or in the past, that I just needed to clear, like, that energy. It's really helped me to um not want to be the same woman going into the pregnancy and coming out of the pregnancy. And it's boost my discernment to being self-aware of what I'm experiencing and not allowing me to just be oblivious or like, oh, well, I'll do this later. I'm more prone to being proactive with anything, knowing um, that I want to change. Like, I really feel like the pregnancy and the healing journey is like a acceleration for change for me. And it's not like it's kinda addicting to me to become a better person while experiencing these pregnancies.
Love it, love it, love it. So I would love for you to leave encouraging words for those who are navigating through loss, who are, advocating for themselves as they go through pregnancy, after loss, and those who are just trying to get to the other side of what motherhood, parenthood looks like for them. What encouraging words can you leave for them?
Um, I would really say just be open to the different avenues of approach with change. Don't allow one journey that may seem like, okay, you're healing, and then there's a roadblock. Just once you get to a point like that, always be open and honest with yourself about what you're willing to do to get to the next level. Whether it's, okay, I've been through a loss or any type of what I was gonna say, anything that may have negatively affected you, like how do you want to change? Like just being able to not forget about it, actually live in whatever emotion you're feeling and be able to shift at some point in time to a different healing journey. And it's always about, it's not about what you're going through, it's how you're like actually changing the trajectory of how you want to get to the end goal. Um, so yeah, just really being open to that. Always look for the community that you want within other people. Really not trauma bonding, but leaving room to just being able to receive different knowledge from others. And it doesn't have to be something that you live in forever because things do get better. Um, and nobody actually knows how you feel because you're the only one experiencing it that particular way. Um, you just have to be open and mindful of what you want and yeah, how you want to get to the other side of what you're feeling.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that we waited to have this conversation and you share your story. I would love for those of us to who want to get in contact with you after this, especially as you navigate motherhood again, and but also learn more about your advocacy work and your doula work and some of the life coaching things that you do. Where can we get in contact with you after this episode?
Okay, so my Instagram is the Soul Coach, TheSoulKoch. Um, I have a link tree, it's link dot tree or however that goes, backslash the Soul Coach, and then I have all of my links for my websites, articles, and all of those different things that I may have going on. Because I also am the president of the African National Women Organization for our branch here in DC. So, definitely always within community with women via ANWO, and different organizations that I'm partnering with, here in the DMV area. Also, my email address is your peace of mind 2016 at gmail.com. So I'm always checking my emails. So you can definitely get in touch with me via social media or via email.
Thank you so much, Mashai, for being on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure. And I am wishing you all the sprinkles and postpartum delight
Thank
as you birth
you.
your new baby.
Thank you. I'm definitely appreciative of it. And I want to say thank you as well for having this platform, having the courage to continue speaking up, especially right now, like all of the work that you've been doing from the pandemic, like all the way up until now, having those conversations for mothers and really still being a mother and living your life, it definitely shows the healing journey within yourself, that it's not just like you're faking it. Like you actually are out here living, healing and breathing and standing in your power as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. For show notes, go to sistersinloss.com to stay connected with us and join the Sisters in Loss community and receive my weekly newsletter. Please go to sistersinloss.com/newsletter. That is sistersinloss.com/newsletter. Please rate and review this episode, and I will talk to you next week.